the boys went to church. My aunt's husband was a charismatic preacher. He was a pastor of two churches, and this particular church in Money, Mississippi, he went there on alternate Sundays, I think it was. I don't quite remember how they did that, but he divided his time between the two churches. But for weekday services, he would always go to the Money Church. And this was on a Wednesday. He went to service, and he and the boys went to service. And he was what you would call a long winded preacher. When he got to preaching, they would say, "Well, he really preached today." I mean, it could go on for hours. And one of his sons said, "While Daddy is preaching, we could go uptown, spend a few minutes, get some refreshments because they knew Bo had money, and we could be back, and he'd never know we had gone." And that's exactly what they did. Well, while they were uptown, there was a porch to the store, and this porch was the recreational center. They had all kinds of, well, they had a few board games like checkers, and I don't know what else they had. Uh, they didn't play chess, I know that, but they had little board games, and the boys were would that was their recreation. They didn't have uh, oh my God, they barely had TV in 55. Isn't that amazing? Uh, but uh, Emmett was not playing a board game, he was watching the others. And he made the decision to go into the store and make a purchase. And his youngest cousin accompanied him into the store. And this is where Emmett asked for bubble gum. Now, as a youngster, about age 5, Emmett was recovering from polio. And at that time, it was a dreaded disease because it would leave you crippled, some kind of deformity. And it left Emmett with a speech defect. Until that time, he spoke very fluently, but after that, he had a terrible stutter, one that concerned me so until I began taking him to the clinics, to the doctors, and wherever I could go to see could we have this fixed. Uh, and the doctor finally told me at the Illinois Research Hospital that Emmett would probably outgrow it. That was the only satisfaction I had. They had no way of dealing with it. But in our relationship, I noticed that anything Emmett memorized, he could deliver it without a problem. And I heard him one day, he was doing an auto commercial, and the person was Lynn Burton for certain. And boy, he was doing such a good Lynn Burton until I looked around and I got an idea. I will have him memorize a lot of things. And whatever he memorizes, he will be able to deliver it, and that will build his confidence. And I was thinking, so the poor little boy, he had a lot of memory work to do. And sure enough, he didn't have any problem regurgitating what he had learned, what he had committed to memory. Now, one day he was doing so well. I said, "Bo, you know what?" I said, "If you get stuck on a word, just whistle and go ahead and say it. I did not know that whistling would relieve the tension. I just learned that the girl that left here, she is a speech pathologist. And uh, we were talking about Emmett one day, and I was saying what I had done. She said, well, you know, you were really on the right track. She said, because that whistling relieves the tension and those muscles relax and so forth and so on. She was giving me the uh, scientific definition of what was going on. And I thought, I wasn't so dumb after all. But when Emmett came to the door, when he was leaving uh, the store, when he got to the door, somebody on the porch said, Bo, what did you buy? And I guess he was going to say bubble gum. But whatever it was, he went into a stutter. And that is when a whistle was emitted. So, in knowing what I had taught him, rather than his whistling at the store clerk, I could assume, or I did assume, that he was trying to say bubble gum and had to give a whistle to relax himself to get that out. But he was on his way out the door was open. He was not looking back at the lady whatsoever. There were quite a few kids gathered around. Some were cousins of the Wrights, some uh, well, I guess they were all cousins and friends and girlfriends, which is why Maurice wanted to go to the store, not to buy something so much, but to see who was at the store, including maybe his girlfriend. But as as they drove off, as they got into the car to drive off, it is said that one of the boys from that group went into the store and told the store clerk that one of those boys from Chicago had wolf whistled at her. And it just went up, 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 up until it ballooned into something that was uncontrollable. Now, the two husbands, uh, Carolyn Bryant and Juanita Milam, they were sisters in law. They were in the store, and their husbands were in Texas or someplace buying some seafood. They were truckers. And when they got back, which was that Friday, uh, the news met them that Carolyn had been uh, flirted with in the store. And at first, Roy Bryant wouldn't pay it any attention. He was the only one they told, and he shoved it off. But this little guy persisted, and he told one of the things he told him was, uh, "If you'll give me 50 cents worth of credit, I'll tell you something that you'll be glad to know." And I guess this thing grew in his mind, and he knew how he was going to enhance it to get Roy Bryant's attention, and he did. Now, Roy told his older brother, J.W. Milam, because Milam had a truck. Roy was so poor he didn't have anything. And he was telling Milam, I want to borrow your truck. And finally, Milam got it out of him why he wanted to borrow the truck. And he, oh gee, how can I describe Milam? he was like a plantation boss, and he was a mean dude. He knew how to handle the niggers. That's what he called them. And he was so brutal until everyone feared him. So he told his younger brother, he said, "We're not going to wait until morning. Let's go now." He said, "This thing is bothering me. Let's go and get him now."